What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. As I promised yesterday, the next video won't take long, so here I am at the very next day with another video. I did some further research on the GEO group. I posted a video just recently doing some analysis on the group and the stock price and the investment opportunity right there. I was figuring out I owe you guys an update because some things has changed. I did some further research. I updated my own investment thesis on the stock. So I want to be fair and transparent here and tell you what my thoughts are, my improved thoughts are on the stock. And I just want to dive right into it. First, disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor. You can read the disclaimer here. I only share these videos for educational purposes, share some ideas on investment possibilities that I think are nice for the future. Do your own research, challenge my ideas and my thoughts on the stock, on the different investment ideas that I come up with. And don't just follow me blindly into any investment. So here we go. First slide, to give you an update, because some people wrote comments or posts on Reddit, on StockTwits, on YouTube below the video, and they said, hey, did you know that Michael Burry got out of the stock? Yes, unfortunately, he sold his position, and the reason behind it is I was thinking, did his thesis change, or does he have another approach, or is it just portfolio management? So I had to dig a little deeper, and I found out that he was sharing an investment journal from his early days as an investor when he was writing for MSN. And those journal entries, you can just Google them. Just Google Michael Burry MSN journal, and you will find his journal entries. What I came across was this part right here. It's part of his portfolio management, as he says. If a stock is going to a new low, in most cases, he just cuts the loss. That's a practical part. I balance the fact that I'm fundamentally turning my back on potentially greater value with the fact that since implementing this rule, I haven't had a single misfortune blow up my entire portfolio. So he's just being fair and square and is telling us that part of his portfolio management is just cutting losses. Doesn't matter how big the position is, I guess. But with GEO, since the stock definitely hit a new low from when he was buying in at an average price of around 8.23, it just went down here to 6 and it went down to 5. Part of his portfolio management is simply cutting losses. That's a practical part. Nothing emotional. Maybe the thesis is even the same. And sometimes I've read that he has, at a later point, just jumped back into the stock. So just to be honest with you, my investment rules or my portfolio management, as I would say, I have usually a very, very concentrated portfolio. When a fundamental thesis on a company and the stock sounds good to me, I'm willing to stick with the company for as long as it takes until my personal price target is reached. And this, I would say, I have in common with Michael Burry. What I do not, or what I'm willing to wait out, is even if the stock drops further and the investment thesis hasn't changed for me, I might average in and even buy more stock. That's a different part because to me, investing is something that you might want to regard with a long-term horizon. I'm not a day trader. I usually don't do options trading. On this part, the GEO group, I didn't buy the stock. I bought leaps because I think that even if the investment thesis doesn't change and the whole sentiment towards the stock is improving just a little bit, the stock might jump to a higher level, and then I might sell an overproportional. I might sell the options with an overproportional profit and then jump into a stock and just wait it out for the long term. That's my That's my game plan for GEO Group. But to sum it up, right here for Michael Burry, he bought in rather expensive compared to nowadays prices. Part of his portfolio management is cutting losses when stocks hit a new low. It did, so he's out. Well, what I figured out is, or what I wanted to show you was the obvious risks from a fundamental point of view that influence an investment story, an investment thesis. If you do not have an investment story or a thesis for a company or a stock, I would recommend just don't go into the stock. Just following anyone blindly, even if you're trying to follow me, even if you think my research is good or it makes sense, challenge it. Always challenge the thoughts. And if you have no idea what the company is doing, or if you don't have any fundamental approach on estimating a price target that you might sound fits this kind of company, the problem that you end up with is not knowing the real problem that you end up with is you don't know if the price goes down when you reach a bottom. So if you are buying overvalued tech stocks and they go down, and you don't have any history of the company making profits, or you don't know how to value the assets, you don't know when to sell. And this is very, very important. I think for the GEO Group, those are the most obvious and the most fundamental risks. The Biden executive order, everybody's nervous. He ordered the Department of Justice that they shall not renew any contracts with the private prison industry. So what does that mean in detail? This affects two revenue sources of the GEO Group, namely all facilities used by the Bureau of Prisons and the US Marshals Service. For the GEO Group, this means 26 to 27% of the revenues, because we are right here, US Marshals, this part, and the Bureau of Prisons, the orange part, right? 14%, 12% equals 26. Some other sources say 27. I don't care, 1%. That's not a game changer, but it's 1/4 of all the revenues might be affected in the midterm. Another issue that results from there, and that many investors view kind of critical, is the high debt burden. I mean, we are talking about a REIT. They have tons of assets and they have tons of debt because they are usually highly leveraged. Of course, in the current low interest environment, I would also try to leverage my business. So that's what they did. Now everybody's thinking they have financial troubles. If you are looking forward, most of their outstanding debt will be due in 2024 with an amount of almost 1.5 billion. So this is the crucial part. So what do they have to do? And that's what they are actually doing, is they are trying to deleverage their balance sheet and also trying to restructure their debt. So this is kind of difficult because most of the US banks, or I think all of the US banks that used to work with those private prison companies, opted out and said, well, we don't want to work with you because everybody's forcing us, bad sentiment, ESG standards, and so on and so on. So what people are basically fearing is that they are not able to renew their debt, to not restructure, and not to get rid of this bulk right here. Also, declining revenues mean a potential drop of free cash flow, which you want to see in a company, because that enables them to pay the shareholders, restructure the balance sheet, pay down debt, and so on and so on. So these are the most fundamental risks we are dealing with the GEO Group as investors. Fundamental factors and stock price are not always connected, I think, but it goes hand in hand for most of the time, especially right now. People find out about the fundamental risks. They just hear about them. They don't really evaluate them and how serious they are. They don't really assign probabilities to it. It's just, oh my God, there's 10 factors, I'm out of this stock. So what happens is the stock price just went down. So obvious risks regarding the stock price. We have been on a 5-year downtrend right here, right? So this is the new bottom. This was the last all-time high in the past 5 years, over $30 per stock. So now we are trading at 1/6 of it. The GEO group is very, very hated among the people out there and has a super bad sentiment for many people. If you read in forums, on Reddit or StockTwits and whatever you post, there's at least one person trying to just bash you down. Hey, private prison, it's slavery, we hate it, we don't, we want to get rid of it, and so on and so on. So very emotional discussion. As I said before, when I'm investing into something, it's just to take advantage of different situations that might earn me money. It's not an evaluation if I find private prisons good or bad. I think they are there for a reason, for historical reason. You won't get rid of them in the near term, so they might serve a purpose, and people are too nervous right now. Even if we get rid of them, it might take a few years just to clear the situation here. I'm into this particular stock because I see an opportunity to make money. No emotions, no sentiment right there. It's just for what I think makes logical sense. The short interest in the stock is very, very high. It's over 50% short of float right here. And short percentage of the shares outstanding, 33%. So to me, this looks like a new GameStop, GME type of situations that might occur if you got many peoples. We have seen what happens when the shorts get squeezed out. So this might be an additional catalyst for all the bullish investors, I might say, that are in there to make money, and they are who are trying to make a profit from that. So very low probability, I say, but it's possible. We see how fast things go. Also, the bond prices are extremely low. They are below 60% right here. I think that's 57% for what I've seen as the numbers. So even if you want to go into the depth, I mean, this bond yields with 6% nominal. So with 57% of the price, what's that? Then it's almost 12% that you get effectively when they don't default, which I don't really think is an issue. People are betting on bankruptcy. That's the conclusion for me right here. And private prisons are on the agenda of the current administration. So very bad sentiment. Everybody's also seeing political issues. I do myself. So this is kind of a question mark regarding the whole stock. What happens? What will happen? We don't really know, but it's definitely a factor that keeps the price down. But everybody's scared. Everybody is on in alarm mode right here. But what are the practical problems? I mean, this industry grew over decades. The private prisons are here for a reason, and you just cannot get rid of them from one day to the other. One question is, where do you move the current prison population? I mean, everybody knows that the US has a very high prison population, and you just can't close prisons, set them free again, or just move them to other facilities that are actually overcrowded. If you look at the statistics, which you can on the Department of Justice, I think there was a statistic that says how much every active prison is basically overcrowded, and that's a lot of them. I really took a look at it, and it doesn't look that good. So you can just abolish them and set people free again. Also, another thing, when you were listening or when you were following CoreCivic, I mean, the whole market is GEO Group and CoreCivic, basically a duopoly. I'm also very closely following CoreCivic, and they had a press release last year where they were replacing a 150-year-old prison in Kansas. I'm actually looking for a list of all the active prisons in America and when they went into service, the year, so I can figure out how old they are. Because even if the Biden administration cuts down private prisons, and if they want to get rid of a bigger part of the prison population, what are you going to do with the old prisons? You got to renew them, and it takes just a lot of time. And just look at the current commodity prices, right? Rebuilding them will cost just an ass load of money, and it's cheaper to just, I think, by the existing facilities of the private contractors like CoreCivic and GEO, if you want to put them out of business. So that's another thing to think about, or just cutting off um, the prison population overall. I would say that you gotta get rid of the old prisons first, because a 150-year-old prison was designed totally different standards. So if everybody's complaining about we are having such a high prison population and the private sector treats them badly, I don't really know if that's the case. Would I rather be in a private facility if I was a prisoner that is designed on modern standards, having air conditioning and so on and so on? Or do I want to be in a 150-year-old building that I don't have any idea how proper they are being kept up, being renovated, and so on? I just have a bad feeling about this. So I would rather favor a modern building structure. Another point is, how about the workforce of GEO and the communities where they operate? I mean, they provide a lot of jobs to the communities where they are. They are very scattered around all over the United States. So partially very small communities, and a lot of people work there. Do you want to tell those people, well, we are closing down private prisons, and so we are putting thousands of people on the street again in an environment right now where many people don't have jobs? I don't know that if that's a good idea. And this is something I would also take into consideration. Also, the communities might want to have geo facilities there, because they just work there. They just see benefits that the federal government just doesn't, and they are just sticking to an agenda. I don't know. Another topic, or another issue, is that I came across in a news article. How do defendants do their work when the inmates are 5 hours away? Because I read an article where um, the state was discussing if they want to shut down a private facility and then just move the inmates to another facility which is 5 hours away. So those people there, I mean, you also have a right to a lawyer, and those people in prison, they need a lawyer that defends them. So if you just put those people 5 hours away, what are you as the local attorney doing in your community when you know your defendant is 5 hours away? How does that keep? How do you keep up with the job? Are you being able to provide a good service to that person? It just makes things difficult. And also, if you transport them back and forth, the most unsafe part when dealing with prisoners is the transport part, right? Because then you don't have brick walls and barbed wire around them where they just cannot escape, but they can easily, I would say, knock out the bus driver and run away. I'm just, talking freely here. Um, it's an issue here, and there are local boundaries when you're dealing with prisoners, and you don't want to just ignore them. Um, Another part is federal level and state level decisions, right? I mean, you can say on a federal level, don't prolong the prison contracts, but the states might decide that they will actually, because they have no other choice. They don't have the resources, they don't have the funding. You don't know. Other part, because we were talking about the Department of Justice, which is the Bureau of Prisons and the U.S. Marshal Service. The U.S. Marshal Service does not even operate their own facilities, as far as I'm concerned, when I was reading Core Civic's annual report. So where do they want to go? They cannot just dream about buildings and they are there. So they have to find facilities where to operate. And they don't have any real other option than dealing with the private sector. Another news article I was reading is, which goes hand in hand with that part, is this part: workarounds and bypasses. Another community, I think it was the sheriff, he said, well, this is an issue. If you close down the private facility and move those inmates 5 hours away, it just causes a lot of trouble. And we don't have the resources to operate the facility here, so the private contractor has to do that. And they negotiated some bypass with, I think it was GEO, that basically they said, well, the sheriff department, or I don't know exactly what department it was, they operate the facility and they rent it out of GEO, and I think it was the it was the U.S. Marshal Service or the Bureau of Prison who is paying now a state organization that's running the private facility. They're just renting. GEO is just renting out the building. They don't provide the services right now. But basically, what happened is they don't have a direct contract with GEO anymore, but an indirect contract by putting the state organization in between. And I don't know. Yeah, that's just for my thesis. You just can't get rid of them by just wishing about it. The financial issue that I was discussing, refinancing possibilities. Well, if every US bank says no to GEO, we saw that with CoreCivic, they just went to Japan. I think the name of the bank was Nomura Investment Bank. They just they just bought the bonds. Maybe with a higher interest rate. I don't really know. I haven't dug into the interest rates that say they are paying, but it just worked out. If the US banks won't lend you money, then foreign banks might want to lend you money as far as you can serve the debt and your cash flows are okay. It's not that you are, there are no local boundaries anymore. And so I don't really see that part, that bulk part of the GEO bonds as dramatic, because once they restructure their debt and they just flatten it out over the years, they have still massive free cash flow, and I think that won't go away that quickly. So they will be able to service their bonds, and there's no bulk risk of going bankrupt in the near future. GEO Group also engaged advisors regarding financial restructuring. So they are working with experts. They cut the dividends to save cash. They hired real professionals that they have been working with in the past, I think, as well. And they will find a solution. They are very, I wouldn't say they are very flexible, but they took into consideration also selling assets. So I think there's no imminent risk of bankruptcy with the company. Basically, what's my conclusion there? To sum it up, I already told you while I was talking about it. The company won't be gone in the next few years. That's just, to me, very highly unrealistic if you bet on that. And so if you want to short the stock, well, you might have had a very good ride in the past few years, just like GameStop. Short sellers they made a ton of cash, but right now I think it's at a level where you might want to consider taking profits, and because might be over shorted and won't go away. Those kind of companies that grew over decades won't just be gone within a year. It's hard to replace the infrastructure or come up with new infrastructure. Whatever they decide, reducing prison population, reducing the older facilities, you can't just come up with new facilities on the next year. But of course, it's still a possibility that they might just buy GEO's or CoreCivic's facilities. I would assign at least a relatively higher probability than to the bankruptcy of the company, that they get just bought out by the government or someone else. I don't know. GEO is still winning and prolonging contracts. I posted the link here. You can read it yourself. Also, the states are dependent on GEO, and they will find workarounds. I also posted the article right here. Also, if the government wants to put them out of business quickly, they might have to buy their own facilities for a premium. The facilities of GEO and CoreCivic for a premium, because real prisons are still in use as well. The prison that was replaced in Kansas was 150 years old. 150 years. That's a number to think about. Also, the facilities are needed for the increased border crossings in the US. I mean, even if they are cutting down the Department of Justice, Bureau of Prison, and US Marshal Services, most of the revenue is coming from the ICE sector that GEO is also heavily involved in, which means immigrant services, immigrant detention. You have increased number of border crossings, so the US has to deal with it. And maybe the facilities are closed for some reason, but then used for other reasons, like ICE, right? So it's just a shift of revenue and maybe a shift of services. But we have seen in the past that those companies are highly flexible when meeting government demands. So they come up with services and they are very creative in that kind of way. So regarding the stock price, I would say that there is a probability that the stock price might jump back in the near term to about plus 50%, but it's really hard to unlock the intrinsic value under the current circumstances, which means sentiment, Biden administration, ESG investing standards, the bank being against helping them out. So it really needs some bigger catalysts to unlock the intrinsic value of the stock, which I think is around about $12 to $15 per share. And the downside protection comes from the assets that have a very, very high replacement value than 20 years before when they were just built. Just look at the real estate prices, they have exploded. And we are all looking at an inflationary environment, super high commodity prices, shortages in cement. Just watch my last video, buying steel, concrete, lumber, whatever you need. And also the huge Biden infrastructure program that will just pull away a lot of workforce for infrastructure projects. What do you think happens to the prices? When any company, also here in Germany, when you want to buy a house right now, all the workforce is busy. They are booked out. Smaller companies in the industry have trouble finding new workforce, and they just raise the prices. They raise the prices to levels. It's really incredible. And that's something you might want to take into consideration, which is, if you're an investor and if you're bullish on the companies, is for what I think the massive downside protection. It doesn't get cheaper than if you just dissolve the company, sell the assets, repay the debt. You will end up with a profit. That is my conviction, because we are dealing with huge, huge infrastructure that is very hard and very expensive to be replaced. So under the current environment, it might take a few years to unlock the real intrinsic value. You might want to have to wait for the next presidential election for the Republicans to take over again. Then I think the stock price will jump. And if you're investing in the company, you should, or my recommendation would be to buy the stock, buy the debt. I don't think they default. I think the stock offer a very long time horizon. Or what I did, I bought leaps, meaning long-term options. They are due in, what was it, January 23. So I have more than 1.5 years runway on waiting for things to improve. And why did I buy leaps? Because I think that in the short term we see an increase. So I might have over proportional profits compared to owning the stock. But when this happens, I will sell the leaps, take the profit, and then buy stocks depending on the environment looks like. So this is my strategy right here. I think you should be a long-term investor in the company. Short-term trading, well, you can do it. It's not my game. I don't really like it. There's just too much risk. I have really learned that buying options can cost you a ton of money very rapidly. Stock price goes down 30%, your options go down 80%. And you have time working against you, which causes you a lot of worrisome nights and some financial pain, I would say. So waiting out the fluctuation of options, there are some people who can do it. It's hard for me to stomach. I really tried it in the past. I'm just more comfortable with stocks because you have no time horizon. It's just wait it out, right? If you're convinced of the company, just wait it out. I will add this presentation on my Google Drive. You can download it. I will post the link in the description, so then you can download the presentation, check out the links. As always, feel free to challenge my ideas. I just felt comfortable of giving you an update because things have changed for me as well. I have trimmed my position on the stock. I was a little too ambitious when I was jumping into the stock when I saw Michael Burry was in it. Underestimated the short-term sentiment, so you don't know where it goes. And as I said, part of my strategy or part of my flexibility is when the stock reaches a new low, which it has, I might also trim a position or dissolve a position, but I'm not sitting there and say, well, that's it for me. I will never touch the stock again, because once it gets down even lower, maybe to $3, I might say, well, the upside got bigger and I just get back into the stock. So I try to be flexible on that. That's just part of how I am wired, how I work. And so that I guess that's the plan of action for me with this stock. So I hope this video helped you understand my point of view, my refined point of view. Still bullish on the stock in the long term. Low probability from my perspective to bankruptcy. They will be able to figure out how to restructure their debt, their equity, how to preserve cash for future needs. And I also think that they are flexible enough to see advantages or to work around what might look like huge obstacles in the short term. They will figure a way to just ship the boat around. So I hope you enjoy your Sunday. I will. The weather is nice and I will have some free time right now. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you all next time. Take care and bye bye.